What about people who say God bless you?
Say amen. I mean, that's great, no?
No, he's saying like in context when people say God bless you, same thing.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, if somebody tells you God bless you, you should tell them amen, thank you. It's a beautiful bracha, right?
And if you sneeze and someone says God bless you?
Huh? Yeah, why not? What's wrong?
Amen.
You know, where did that come from? The Medrash says that in the old, going back way towards the beginning of the creation of mankind, it says that how did people die? They would sneeze, and then the neshamas would leave their bodies, and that would be the way they
Does that mean
died.
they never sneezed until the day they died?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Well, when you sneeze, you have it says you have a mini.
Oh, yeah.
Your heart stops.
Really?
For like a few seconds, and then it goes back.
A few seconds?
Not a few seconds, like a second, right? Am I? Like
Yeah,
a
really?
Of a second or something. Okay, so I was exaggerating a little bit.
If it's not for a few seconds, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Is that yeah?
It's like it's a very, very small heart attack every time you
Interesting. Gosh, okay. I'll tell you a little secret about sneezing. Don't say I never taught you anything. This is important stuff. When I was a kid, so my parents wanted to try to educate me. They did their best, right? What can I tell you? They didn't do very well, but they did do their best. It wasn't to do with them, believe me. They had some pretty rough raw material to be dealing with, but. So they decided they were taking me to classical concerts.
Mm-hmm. Concerts?
Yeah, so I must have been like, I don't know, 7 maybe. And classical concerts for, I mean, even today, they're not terribly exciting for me. But when you're 7 years old, it's even less exciting. And in England, in London, yeah. So they took me off to some fancy concert hall. And so I sneezed. And everybody says, bless you, bless you, bless you. All English, bless you, bless you. Heck. Right? And my father gave me a couple of tissues. And I don't know what got me doing this, but I decided to roll the tissue up into a little spike in the corner and then to stick it up my nose to see what was going to happen. Now, it's interesting, right? I tickled the inside of my nostril and I sneezed again, right? And everyone's like, bless you, in this concert, bless you. They would say, right? And so I waited a few minutes, it probably wasn't a few minutes, a little while, right? And then I did it again. Let's try the other nostril this time, see what's going on. And at this point it's like, bless you. A lot less, bless you. Anyway, I must have done it about 5 or 6 times. It's a very handy trick to know. You should know. And finally, my father, hustled me out of there, and he says. So he sat me down. This is in the good old days where nobody, Baruch Hashem, people didn't kidnap children in those days. So he sat me down in the lobby with a can of Coke and a chocolate bar, and he says, "Look," he says, "I'm going back in. We'll come out in the interval to find out how you're doing." It was the best concert I ever went to, I think. But anyway, so sneezing. Obviously, there's self-induced heart attacks. But whatever. Here I am, alive to tell the tale. That so if you ever want to make yourself sneeze, just carry tissues.
What stopped the sneezing and the souls being sucked out?
There's a thing in Bereshit, right? Like God breathed this.
Yeah, interesting, right? It says like this: that when God breathed life into Adam, He breathed it through his nostrils. Which is interesting. If I were to ask you where do you imagine God when He gave life to Adam, how did He breathe it into? Everyone would say His mouth, because obviously the mouth is the apparatus that's really your breathing apparatus, right? And yet God chose to blow life in through the nostrils, and it says that there's some kind of a reverse procedure, that when somebody sneezes, the neshama goes out of the nostril, it goes out through the nose. In those days, today I think things are not quite the same as they were. But and that's why it says that when a person sneezed, they would say, God bless you, because
you could have dropped it and died.
Maybe, right? Maybe. If we've already gone off on a little digression, there's the most astonishing idea over the Bnei Yissaschar, which is one of the Hasidic commentaries, explains why did God give life to Adam through his nostrils, through his nose, and not through another part of his body. So he says like this: a person has 5 senses, Right? You've got the sense of touch, you've got the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, and the sense of taste. The Bnei Yissaschar says that when Adam and Eve, when they sinned by eating from the tree of knowledge, 4 of the 5 senses were involved in what they did. So it says that Eve looked at the fruit and it was desirous in her eyes. That was sight. It then says that she listened to what the snake told her. That was the hearing. She touched the tree in order to see that she wasn't going to die, and she ate from the tree of knowledge, and that was it. She ate from the fruit, and that was the 4th one. Says the Bnei Yissaschar, the only sense that wasn't used, that wasn't involved in the sin of the tree of knowledge, was the sense of smell.
How? I mean, when you're eating something,
Yeah.
You taste it, you don't smell it.
No,
Yeah,
you
you
do.
do
The
smell
most
it.
of the taste is in the smell.
You know how when you have like a cold, you can't really taste food.
Oh, because everything's all bunged up, yeah. But again, we're talking over here, we're talking actively, right? Which means it doesn't say anywhere that she took the fruit and she smelled it, and that gave her a desire to eat it, but rather it was the other things, right? So it could, obviously your smell, what are they called?
olfactory,
Is that what they're called? Say that again?
olfactory senses.
Olfactory?
Olfactory.
Olfactory senses, right, get involved when you're eating. However, like I said, not actively involved. So it says the Bnei Yissaschar, the most incredible idea. God breathed life into Adam using the only organ that wasn't going to be involved in the sin.
Because he knew that they would eventually sin.
God knows everything, right? That's
But then, how does free will come into
how does free? Let's not talk about free will, because there's no easy way out of here, right? Free will, says the Rambam Maimonides, he says it's the ultimate paradox, right? Because God knows exactly what you're going to do, and yet you're choosing to do it. How does that work? So the closest I've ever come to being able to understand it is if you go to a kid and you offer the kid a red sweet or a green sweet, right? You know perfectly well that the kid will take the red sweet. You know that. But the kid still
What do you mean
chooses.
sweet?
Candy.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll say that in American. Just for those of you that don't speak English, right? That you offer a child a green candy. Did I say that? Did I say that okay?
Yeah,
Pronounced it okay? Yeah. A green candy or a red candy, right? You know the kid's going to take the red one. I mean, red is like every kid's favorite color, right? But the kid still chooses to take the red candy. Was there free choice involved over here? Well, from the kid's perspective, for sure there was. Right? He
We might have thought
chose.
that the green one's tastier. You never know.
You never know, that's for sure, right? Because we're not God. God's taking this one notch higher. But I'm saying as a method of trying to understand how this system works, right? It's when a person's making a decision to do something, even though somebody already knows what they're going to do. Yeah? We do this all the time in our own lives. We do this all the time, right? When we imagine that we're choosing to go to this restaurant instead of that restaurant, but the bottom line is that that this restaurant might happen to be my favorite restaurant, which is why I'm going there. Yeah, or maybe for you people probably can't relate to that, but taking down your favorite sefer, your favorite Jewish book from the shelf, right? Am I gonna learn this one or that one? So you think you're choosing that one, but it's a foregone conclusion because that's your favorite, it's the favorite thing that you want to learn,
I don't
right?
have just one favorite book.
No, obviously not. People with multiple personalities obviously are,
Thank
it's,
So what about in like a situation where like you're given like 2 identical looking pills, or like you don't know which one is which, one's life and one's death? What kind of like
what does one do? So if you ask me, I think,
what kind of like free will?
how does free will kick into choosing between 2 things which are identical,
But they aren't actually.
but they really aren't? So I don't know. Is that free will, or is that again? I'm using the word reservedly, but is that? I mean, really, that's just luck, isn't it? I have no way of being able to identify any difference between the 2 of them until I've taken the pill, right? If I'm still alive after I've taken the pill, then it was a good choice.
Take 2 at once.
Maybe they'll balance each other out. Very nice. Okay.
So luck and free will are two separate.
I think so. Again, everybody here understands if you've got two pills that are not identical, but you don't know which one is which, and one of them will give you life and one of them will give you death, then you are going to have to utilize your free will to work out which one am I going to choose, right? Do I want the green round one, or do I want the yellow triangle one? Right? I don't know. Yeah. But when they're both exactly the same and I have to make a choice, so that's not really exercising free will anymore. That's more a case of just, I have to make a choice. I have to take one of them. So I'll just choose whichever one. They do say certain animals, if they're given food, the same food, right, two bowls of food that are placed equidistant between the animal, right, that the animal won't be able to choose which one to go to.
Really?
Some animals, yeah.
You confuse them, that's why.
They're
Animals don't have free will.
they're incapable of making a choice because it's exactly the same on both sides, and there's no difference in the distance either. Otherwise, if one's closer than the other, I guess they'll go to the closer one. We also, stop and think about it for a minute, we also become paralyzed with indecision from time to time. Maybe not over, bowls of animal food, but right, when a person reaches a point where they're not.
What is the belief that humans do have
free will? So that's the Rambam. The Rambam is saying like this: it really is the ultimate paradox. Do you have free will? You absolutely do. You get to choose. Throughout your day, you're choosing over and over and over again what it is that you're going to do.
I thought we also believe that God influences.
Yeah. How does that work? How do those two gel together? I don't know. That's what the Rambam said. You have to understand why am I quoting the Rambam, Maimonides? Because Maimonides is the ultimate pragmatist. He's like the ultimate in logic, just pure applied logic. And the Rambam is saying that it's not possible to apply rational logic to this particular detail over here. Because it's not, I can't explain it to you. How can I explain that I can make a choice about what I'm going to do, and yet the choice has been made by God already? I'll give you an example here. You want to get an idea of how much of a moron I was when I was a kid, and
Got my attention.
Let's keep the comments down to a minimum. I know nothing's changed except for my age. I know. But when I was a kid, I would walk into the room and I would say out loud, I'm going to go sit in that chair over there, and I'd go run and sit in a different chair in order to fool God.
You really did that?
Or was it to fool your parents or someone else?
Oh, I would do it even if they weren't in the room, I would do it, right? But you hear, listen carefully. Think like a kid, right? Does it make sense? It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I'm going to sit over there, and I run and go sit over there, and that way God's going to say, where's he gone? Right? Does it make any sense theologically? It doesn't make any sense at all, right? So the truth of the matter is, if you want me to get a little bit preachy over here, we do it all the time, don't we? Like whenever we sin, it's like we're trying to pull a false one over God. It's like he won't see that I just ate what I just ate, right? Or he won't see that I didn't make a blessing. Yeah, it's okay. He's a busy guy, He's running the world right now, so whatever, right? If you really want to fool God, you can say, okay, God, I'm going to make a blessing over this piece of cake now. You can go. It's okay, right? And then when he's gone, you can eat it without making the blessing, right? Did you fool God? You don't fool God. But we can fool ourselves. So I'm asking you, as a kid, was I making a choice as to which chair I was going to sit in?
Yeah.
Of course, absolutely, 100%, right? Was God taken in by it? No, 100%. How does that work? I don't know.
Maybe you can say it's something like some people that are really, really good at studying psychology, right? Or someone that has some form of case, like you put a person in a specific situation, and based on their quote unquote psychological records, you really already know how they're going to react to a specific situation.
100%. That's like the candy again, right?
So so it could be that's
yeah. Good. Okay. So God is the ultimate psychologist. right? And he understands the human psyche, better than anybody else. And he understands each individual's psyche, right? And that means that for God, there are no surprises over here. Even though sometimes we surprise ourselves, right? We can make a choice that we really are surprised that we ended up doing what we ended up doing. It's completely out of character. How many times have you heard people say that, right? Completely out of character, and I did whatever I did, right? But God, He's got it all factored in with your character and out of character as well. Good. Okay, listen, I knew you were going to ask that.
Okay. Do Jews have more free will than non-Jews, or is it the same thing?
No.
Same thing?
We have less free will.
Free, well, ultimately, yeah, that was, that's true. But no, I mean, human beings have free will. An equal amount of free will.
You can change your luck though. Non-Jews can't.
Yeah, but there's no such a word as luck in Hebrew.
Mazel.
Mazel.
Yeah, but...
Ein mazel Yisrael, interestingly
but also
enough,
that there's
right?
no concept of luck.
No, luck is something which, again, I mean, I was very hesitant to use the word before, right? When it says it's just a matter of luck when you're taking those two identical pills, right? But the bottom line is that luck is something which really doesn't fit in very well inside of Jewish theology. It doesn't work very well. Luck.
So
We believe, we believe there's no coincidence in the world, right? It's amazing. I just thought about that fellow. I just bumped into him. I haven't seen him for years, right? And thought about him, and punk, there he was. Isn't that incredible? There's no coincidence in the world.
So that was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
Do we believe in miracles?
for sure.
Of course we believe it.
Don't we say that Ein Mazel Yisrael means specifically that there is luck for non-Jews, and that it's? I mean, I know it's
Well,
like
the
dictated by the stars.
emes is like this. Ein mazel, mazal, right inside of that phrase over there. Mazal is referring to powers that God has that in charge of the different nations. When it says Ein Mazel Yisrael, that's because God is in charge of the Jewish nation. It's not really referring to the idea that, Ein Mazel Yisrael, that Jewish people don't have any luck, and that's why you shouldn't go to Las Vegas, because it's not going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really what it means.
No, I
But,
thought it was like some like celestial beings or something.
Yeah.
Like in charge of.
Each nation has got its own being, its own celestial being in charge of it, except for the Jewish people, right? But those celestial beings are called mazalot. So when it says Ein Mazel Yisrael, what it's really saying is that we are not. What's the pshat here? Rav Pinkus has a fascinating description of what angels are, right? These mazalot, whatever they are. He says they're like gloves that God wears on his hands. When you wear a pair of gloves, right, it's clear that your hands are inside there, you just can't see them. Which means it's as if when you're wearing gloves, everything is one step removed. Right? The Jewish people are being ruled, we are being governed by God himself. The other nations of the world are being governed by God through different celestial beings, each one representing a different nation.
Are you saying that those gloves are God guiding you, or just put them on just like?
So according to what Rav Pinkus is saying, the gloves are there in order to hide the obvious manifestation of God. Okay, what's the problem? If God was clear, then we wouldn't have any free will anymore, right? Mm-hmm. If every time you did something wrong, a little hand came out of the heavens and hit you over the head with a mallet, then you would probably stop doing things wrong. You know what? I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you enjoy this kind of stuff. I don't know, right? But
each his own.
No, that's why they say that people are better than malachim, right? Because the malachim don't really have a choice.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Standing next to God.
It says it's interesting that the rabbis make a connection between the malachim and the animals. Like the animals are completely physical. The malachim, the angels, are completely spiritual. But not all they're doing is what they're supposed to do, right? Which means that being an angel, what?
They have an assignment.
Yeah, right? And being an angel, so fine. So you're a spiritual being, but big deal. That's what God created you as, right? Whereas we human beings are the only creation that was created with duality. We have physicality and we have spirituality, and we're supposed to juggle the two together and to be able to enhance our spirituality through the physicality. Right? Animals can't do that, and angels can't do that either.
Angels can't do that.
Angels can't enhance the physical because they're only spiritual.
Gotcha.
They can't relate to the physical at all. That's why it says that you know, when God sent the 3 angels to Abraham, and they came dressed up as human beings, but there's a whole big discussion over there of how could they eat the food that they were given, because they weren't humans, they were angels. Angels don't eat. Angels are spiritual.
Well, I thought Shadim are only spiritual and they supposedly eat.
I don't know. Shadim are demons.
They eat?
I don't know. Yeah, that's what you heard. I don't know. I don't know very much about Shadim at all. Shadim is something which, you know, demons are something which definitely existed. In our day and age, they don't really have very much, you know, they don't really have very much impact at all. You know, the halachas, it's interesting, halachas, right? You shouldn't walk through a cemetery at night. It's in the Shulchan Aruch, right? Don't walk in the cemetery at night. Why not? Because there are demons, there are shadim around over there in the cemetery.
What if that's the safest path to get from point A to point B?
Yeah.
And going through that cemetery
that's right.
is the best way to get home.
If it's pikuach nefesh, right? Even what's pikuach nefesh? If your life is in danger, it doesn't have to be obvious. There's just a slight chance, right? So like you say, you're living in an area where around are people that you do not want to bump into on a dark night, right? So would it be permissible then to walk through the cemetery to get to where you want to get to? For sure. For sure. First of all, you need to know that there's a concept in halacha called pikuach nefesh doiche akol. Right? Pikuach nefesh, right? When somebody is in a life-threatening situation, everything's pushed out of the way. So, for example, the Gemara says that when somebody is in a life-threatening situation, can you break Shabbat to save them? Yeah, for sure. No problem, right? Don't even think about it from home. Just do it. Go and, you know, save the person from the situation they're in.
What if you're passing a cemetery where famous rabbis are? Still don't pass it at night?
Shouldn't go in at night, yeah. It's a kasha. You know what? If it's a cemetery where only that person is there, so maybe then it's okay to go in. Okay. But in most cemeteries, you don't just have that very righteous, pious person buried over there. You got all kinds of other people buried there as well. So I don't know, right? Is it okay to go to, you know, Kever Rochel, right? Can you go to Rochel's, you know, to Rochel's tomb next to Bethlehem? Can you go there at night? I mean, plenty of people do. Presumably, that's not a place of, that's not a place of danger. Marasa Machpelah, right? Can you go to the cave of Machpelah? And plenty of people go there at night. When you know, I think the problems begin when you've got all different kinds of people buried over there. So then you've got shadim. Today, are we bothered by shadim today? We're not bothered, but the Shulchan Aruch says not to do it, so we don't do it.
But they're around us, though, right? My rabbi said
whatever, they're here. I don't really understand very much about them. You know, they didn't go anywhere, that's for sure, right? They're still around. It's just that we are on such a low spiritual level that they can't have very much of an impact on it. They can't do very much to damage us. Shadim, it's an interesting paradox, right? Shadim are only dangerous to people who are on high levels, very high spiritual levels. Right?
But if they can't touch us, even if God says go ahead and touch X, Y, Z?
Oh, I mean, once God tells them to do something, of course, they can do whatever they want. But I'm saying that in general, why were people more concerned about Shadim in the previous generations? Because they were on a higher spiritual level. Today, we're on the level that we're on. We don't really need to be overly concerned. We got other things we need to be concerned about, right? What are you smiling at?
No, we elevate ourselves and
they're still fascinating, that's for sure, huh?
We got to elevate ourselves and then worry about demons.
Yeah, okay. Here, he's right. If you want to know more about demons, then you've got to get yourself to that spiritual level where you need to be concerned about these things, and then you can become a world famous expert.
There's certain inappropriate shortcuts too, but you know, there are.
Good. Okay, we're going to stop over here. We didn't get very far with Rosh Hashanah.